It was established back in 1884 and it stays open all year long to serve the approximate 600 to 700 residents on Mackinac Island. On your right-hand side here is Marquette Park. Now this is the late 1600s to go ahead and do work with the Native Americans. That statue in the middle of the park you see there, folks, was dedicated to Father Marquette back in 1909. However, the sculptor of that statue did not have an accurate depiction of Father Marquette to go off of, so he went ahead and he put the next best thing. His own face! Yeah! He looked in a mirror and said, yes, that looks good on a statue. I'm going this way. You're good then. I gotta see, the thing is, I gotta fight these guys to go up so that way they don't turn too early so I don't catch that curve. Now, on our right-hand side here is going to be the Dr. William Beaumont Museum. Now, Dr. William Beaumont was the island physician back in the early 1800s and got his claim to fame for the discoveries into the human digestive process. And how he actually did that was there was a young French-Canadian fur trader by the name of Alexis St. Martin who accidentally got shot in the back in 1822. Well, Dr. Beaumont was able to save that young man's life, but he wasn't able to close that exit wound all the way and left about a $half size inside of that stomach. Well, through that stomach hole, he conducted over 250 experiments with food attached to strings. He dipped it right inside of that stomach hole and then pulled it out about an hour later to see that it was actually enzymes and not muscles breaking down the food inside of our bodies. Yeah. Now who's hungry?
Today, bring it. They do it
On your right-hand side is going to be the post office for Mackinac. This one's a little bit different than the others inside the United States because it actually does not deliver any mail to the residents. So their slogan there is rain, sleet, or hail, come get your own mail. Continuing on the right is going to be the Stewart House City Museum and then the City Hall offices. Now these two buildings here, folks, were the original locations of the Astor Fur Company. John Jacob Astor was the owner and founder of that company and said to be America's first self-made millionaire. Back in 1822, there was approximately $3 million worth of fur that was traded through that office and warehouse. Wow. In today's numbers, folks, it would be closer to about $60 to $70 million. Now, Mackinac was the epicenter of all fur trading in the United States until the year of 1834. That is when the expansion of the U.S. started moving out westward and the trade went ahead and followed along with it. This was also around the same time that synthetics started being introduced into the trade. On your right-hand side is going to be the Benjamin Blacksmith Shop and the Biddle House. Now, the Benjamin Blacksmith Shop used to be where we got our shoes made for our horses. However, they no longer provide us that service, but they do have live demonstrations of ironwork inside. The Edward and Agatha Biddle House was purchased by the couple back in about 1830 for only a down payment of $100. Parts of that house do date back to 1780 and 1781 when the British were first initially here. Now, you won't find anything older than that on the island here, folks, and the reason for that is back when the British would colonize any areas, they would destroy anything not British-made and or influenced. Now, coming up here off to your left-hand side, you're going to see this green and white building in front called the Windsor, and then down the street there's going to be another green and white building called the Twilight. Now, both of these were built as hotels back in the 1920s. However, they went out of business during the Great Depression and were bought up by the Grand Hotel. They now use them as employee housing during the peak of season on Mackinac. Now, before those two were built as hotels, though, inside of those plots sat a cemetery, so they say those are some of the most haunted buildings on Mackinac. Coming up on your left-hand side, you're going to see that yellow newspaper stand and a sidewalk leading down to the Town Crier office. Now, the Town Crier is Mackinac Island's published newspaper. It gets published once a month during the winter and then once a week during the summer. It is one of the cheapest souvenirs you can find on the island for only about $2. However, Turner and Yeti are nice enough to leave you folks free ones on the bottoms of your shoes. I know. It's a crappy situation to walk through. Now, I'm going to be taking a right turn onto Cadott Avenue, but on Mackinac, we call it by another name. We call it Lilac Lane. Now the reason for that is we have 68 different varieties of lilac and over 18 different hues on the island, ladies and gentlemen. We do have a week-long celebration for the blooming of those lilacs in the second week of June on the island. Coming up on the right, you're going to see the Chambers Livery Stable. Now, that is the oldest working livery stable on the island. It goes ahead and holds carriage tours, wedding carriages, and horses. We do see approximately 250 weddings a season here. But only 125 divorces, so not too bad. Coming up here off to your left-hand side is going to be the Grand Cottage, but that very first lilac tree right out in front here, folks. That is the oldest lilac tree known on Mackinaw Island. So the University of Michigan State came up and did a core sample on that tree, and they found it to be over 180 years old. Now, the Grand Cottage itself was the original house of William Backhouse Astor. William was the son of John Jacob Astor, and it is said that he is the one that ran the business on the island for his father. Now, the reason for that is because John himself was not a huge fan of crossing large bodies of water. So he went ahead and stayed back in New York, putting the family wealth that was accumulating here on the island into New York real estate. However, in a sick twist of fate, William Backhouse Astor's grandson, John Jacob IV, was aboard the Titanic when it sank. He was the richest man on that ship. I'll go ahead and let that one sink in. Coming up here off to your left-hand side, you're going to see a stack of turtles sitting on top of that stone column there. You're going to see a lot of different depictions of turtles, just like that one all over Mackinaw. The reason for that is back when the Native Americans first inhabited the land, they originally named it Michilimackinac, which roughly translated to the land of the great turtle. Coming up on your right-hand side is going to be the Little Stone Church. Now, the Little Stone Church was constructed back in 1904, being completely out of limestone quarry here on the island. Those stained glass windows you see in the front there, folks, are imported from New York and made by Tiffany & Company. They go ahead and depict early missionary work done by Father Marquette and other missionaries here on the island. Now, you may notice, folks, there is a little bit of plexiglass in front of those stained glass windows. Well, that's because somebody thought it was a good idea to build a golf course next to it. On your left-hand side, through the trees there, you're going to see the Mackinaw Bridge, otherwise called Mighty Mac. Now, that is the longest suspension bridge in the Western Hemisphere, and it spans approximately 5 miles from anchor to anchor. Originally constructed back in 1954 and then finished in 1957. It is the only piece of construction that connects the Upper Peninsula to Lower Michigan. Coming on your right-hand side, you're going to see a big white house sitting on top of that hill overlooking this beautiful golf course here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the governor's residence here on Mackinaw Island. So it is the honor of any sitting Michigan governor to go ahead and use that as his or her summer home during the season. Now, folks, I will let you know it is typical of us to only see the families come around here, which is pretty A-okay in my book, considering the fact these horses stink this place up enough. I can't imagine adding a politician to that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that house was originally constructed back in 1902 by a wealthy Chicago lawyer. He went ahead and built that house for about $15,000. Later on, sold it to the state of Michigan in 1945 for that exact same price. Now, upon selling it to the state of Michigan, he did go ahead and put the stipulation into the contract that if they were to ever want to sell that house, it would have to be to a direct descendant of the lawyer, and for the original $15,000 they bought it for. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now the moment you have all been waiting for, coming up off to your left-hand side. If you have not seen it already, it is going to be the absolutely beautiful Pineapple in a Garden. It's the Grand Hotel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Grand Hotel does have the world's longest covered porch, spanning about 660 feet long. Originally constructed back in 1887 with 180 rooms inside of it. It was built by 2 locomotive companies and a steamship line to promote travel to and from Mackinaw by their way of transportation. Now, can anybody go ahead?